everyone. Welcome to today's study circle. Before we proceed for today's session, there are a few announcements on the programs which we are doing at ICAI. One is on 8th November, Vidvat Sabha. It's an anti-money laundering laws. It's between 9:30 and 5:15, and it's at the branch premises itself. And one more is on 9th November, which is based on Vedic mathematics application in a CA profession. I think this is a very quite a new topic and going to be very useful. Kindly to get registered, and this is happening at the branch premises itself. There's a slight change of the program month now, which was supposed to happen on 26th November. It's being postponed to 29th and 30th November. And it was a 5-day course, it has been changed to 2 days course. It was on the Practice Development Companies Act under IBC, which is organized in branch itself. So we have today with us Vijay Kotha, who is going to speak on updates of FATCA and CRS regulations. So let's welcome him with a great applause, and I welcome sir on the stage. Our fellow chartered accountant. Here is a brief introduction on today's speaker. He is a law graduate and is a partner in C.N. Raju and Company Chartered Accountants. He has a vast area of experience spanning over 22 years. He has been part of EY, Goldman Sachs and Amicorp. And he has been practicing in the areas of direct and indirect taxes in information technology, in the sectors of information technology, ITES, manufacturing, retail, real estate and private equity. He specialized in Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act, that is FATCA, and Common Reporting Standards CRS tax advisory, compliance and reporting. He has extensive experience in advising clients and financial institutions on FATCA and CRS tax advisory. And he has been a prominent speaker with our institute, CII, IBA and various industries. With this brief introduction, let's welcome today's speaker on the topic updates on FATCA and CRS regulations. I hand it over to the speaker for today's session.
Another for the nice intro. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I know it's a small gathering and it helps me a lot to have one-on-one interaction as well. Welcome you all for this session. Okay, the agenda for the today's session would broadly be this. What I would like to do is I'll start up with the basic FATCA and CRS at the global level. What's the scenario at the global level? Then I'll straight away jump into Indian scenario. How FATCA and CRS would have an impact in terms of India for the financial institutions. And then brief on the updates regarding FATCA and CRS developments, non-compliance of FATCA and CRS, how it will have an impact. Last but not the least, SAQs. Of course, SAQs stand for should ask questions. If there are any questions, please do ask me. Even if you don't ask me, I have few SAQs that I've mentioned in the slides. Please feel free to ask any questions at any moment. You can stop me. And if you think that I'm just going fast and going too slow, do let me know. Okay, FATCA stands for Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act. It's basically a US federal law. It's not any specific law which is here in India as such. It started with US law. It is an act within an act. There is a basic act called Hiring Incentive to Restore Employment Act 2010. Out of that, it is part of Chapter 4, FATCA as such in US. The intention of US FATCA is basically to enforce tax compliance for US persons having financial assets, financial accounts, investments, income outside the US. As you are aware, the gamut of taxation in the US is basically on citizenship-based taxation, meaning that once you acquire this US citizenship, maybe by birth or maybe having the green card, then automatically you will become US person. And because of citizenship-based taxation, even though you are not residing in US, there will be a requirement for you to file and pay taxes not only in the country where you reside but also in the country in US as well. That is a basic crux in terms of implementing US FATCA. There were lots of challenges in terms of enacting FATCA, and there were lots of opposing issues as well in terms of repealing FATCA as well. It tested the eyes of courts, but it went on smoothly, not only in the US but also in other countries to repeal FATCA. It didn't go through. So as of now, going forward also, I don't think FATCA will get repealed. Now, US FATCA being US law, it becomes very difficult to enforce FATCA in other countries. To have this issue be resolved, US entered into an agreement called Intergovernmental Agreement, in short IGS, and as of now, US has entered into 113 countries, and out of 119 countries, there are 9 countries which agree to implement FATCA, and they need to sign the IGS. That will happen shortly. Okay. The important thing in terms of compliance is with respect to US persons. There are more than 8 million Americans who are residing outside the US, and still it is applicable, FATCA is applicable for them. So that's the major concern for most of the American citizens. The challenge is if they are holding a US passport, then FATCA is applicable. If they are holding a green card, FATCA is applicable. If they are born at in the US, FATCA is applicable, irrespective of the residency for them. Then because of this, the concept of US persons assumes lots of importance in FATCA. So how reporting happens is, there are 2 models. I don't know, mouse is not working. Okay, I'll come back to that. Okay, this is a slide wherein IGS can be entered into 2 types, Model 1 agreement and Model 2 agreement. Model agreement provides for reciprocity of information, meaning that if India enters into an agreement with US, there will be 2 way of flow of information. India will be sharing the information with respect to US persons to US IRS. On similar lines, US will be sharing the information back to India with respect to Indian residents having financial assets, accounts, investments in US. This is the way it works as far as Model 1 is concerned. So India signed Model 1 agreement, so also with respect to UK, Singapore and other countries where they have signed Model 1 agreement. So always there will be flow of information from both the countries, not only from the partner country but also from the US as well. As far as Model 2 agreement is concerned, there will be only one way of flow of information. So for example, if I take Japan, Japan has signed the Model 2 agreement. With Model 2 agreement in place, Japan will be sharing the details of US persons having financial accounts in Japan to US authority, US IRS, and there is no information flowing back from US with respect to Japanese persons in US to Japan. So that doesn't happen, only one side. So it goes only from the respective partner countries, and US doesn't check. So this is model 2 agreement, and there are a few countries like Russia, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Nepal, where they have not signed neither model 1 agreement or model 2 agreement. In that case, US FATCA is directly applicable. It's called FATCA regulations. As I mentioned earlier, it is chapter 4 status. FATCA regs would be applicable. In that case, there is a requirement for those countries, those financial institutions to directly share the relevant information back to US IRS directly. And what details will be shared? It is reporting of US accounts. As I mentioned, foreign financial institutions will be sharing the information with US IRS directly if it is model 2. If it is model 1 countries, then in that case, if I take again the example of Indian financial institutions, Indian financial institutions will be sharing that information by way of annual reporting to the Central Board of Direct Taxes, CBDT, and CBDT will be sharing that information to US IRS. That's how model 1 works. And non-compliance of FATCA would result into 30% withholding with respect to certain types of income. Usually FDAP stands for fixed determinable annual or periodic payments. It is with respect to rents, with respect to interest income, with respect to the royalties, which will be passive in nature. So on those source income, if FATCA is not complied with, this 30% withholding would be applicable. Can you please help me to have the mouse is not working. So these types of income, basically dividends, interest, annuity, be it rent, royalties, are all fixed in nature. It's not required that you need to have a separate office, you need to have employees to earn these kinds of passive income. So if there is no compliance with respect to FATCA, then automatically it will be subject to 30% withholding. So to implement FATCA by partner country, it is through IGS. What is the purpose of having IGN in place? One is to have seamless information exchange information automatically. Second is to improve the tax compliance. Third is with respect to have the reporting standards uniform at uniform pace. Fourth is with respect to eliminating the local legal obstacles. If I take an example about Switzerland, Switzerland has data protection policy, confidentiality. They're not supposed to. So the banks in Switzerland were not supposed to share any information. So now Switzerland is sharing the information with respect to the bank account holders only because of CRS. Of course, I will speak about because of the tax transparency measures, where Switzerland was also made part of the tax transparency initiatives. And of course, by having IGS in place, it will reduce the compliance cost for the FFIs because you will have uniform reporting methodology. The platform will be same. It will help the FFIs to reduce the compliance cost drastically. Okay, one small question here. Does FATCA is applicable in the US? Of course, we should read this as whether it is applicable in the US for US entities. Any thoughts? Okay. Strictly speaking, FATCA is not applicable for US entities because they have their own set of rules and regulations. It is applicable to all non-US entities. So very important that FATCA as such, FATCA regulations as such is not applicable for any of the US entities. Moving on, we spoke about FATCA, so now I'll briefly touch upon CRS. CRS is also similar in nature. CRS stands for Common Reporting Standard. Yes, sir.
You said that it's not applicable to US entities.
Yes.
What happens if you have subsidiaries in India?
Right.
And then its parent is sort of
Right.
US entity.
Okay. So I'll give a simple example. I just, if I understand your question properly, US has a subsidiary in India,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And the subsidiary is into what activity? What do they do?
No, so what I wanted to understand was,
Oh.
is this only applicable to individuals, or is it applicable to even
It will be applicable to entities as such.
yeah.
Individuals, there is no direct reporting or direct compliance requirements. I'll come to that part as well. So if you speak about applicability FATCA,
Yeah.
applicability FATCA at first stage it is only for entities. It could be companies, it could be with respect to banks, it could be with respect to mutual funds, insurance companies, so on and so forth.
Okay, so if you have a sort of a subsidiary in India,
Right.
and the parent entity is in the US,
Okay.
so what happens now? Do you mean to say that it doesn't get covered because we are saying that
No, it is applicable for the Indian
for the
entity.
Indian entity?
Understood. So it is applicable for the Indian entity, but we need to understand the nature of business. So if it is into active business, it will be considered as
ITS type of a.
that's what it is into active business. It is conducting day-to-day active business, and the income, majority of income is active in nature, not passive income, which I mentioned earlier. It is not earning fixed deposit. Maybe it might be earning. There is a threshold limit of 50% of the overall income. I have one slide for that. I'll briefly touch upon the status of the subsidiary. Usually it will be considered as active NFFE. Active NFFE has lesser compliance requirements. There is no proactive compliance requirements. There is a reactive compliance approach. I'll come back to that later. Okay, CRS stands for Common Reporting Standard. So OECD has started thinking about the implementation of FATCA and the benefits that the US is going to derive. On similar lines, OECD also came out with a standard called Standard for Automatic Exchange of Financial Account Information in Tax Matters, popularly called as Common Reporting Standard or Automatic Exchange of Information. So CRS also works on similar lines of Model 1 agreement, meaning that there will be reciprocity of information between two countries. I'll just take an example here, India and the UK. So India will be reporting details with respect to UK persons having financial assets, accounts, investments in India. So India will be reporting these details through the financial institutions, and these financial institutions will be filing an annual report to the CBDT, which is the local tax authority, and CBDT will be sharing this information back to HMRC. So HMRC is the local tax authority in the UK. On similar lines, same thing would be applicable for UK financial institutions, wherein UK financial institutions will be sharing the information of Indian residents having financial assets, accounts, investments in the UK, and this information will be shared to the HMRC. HMRC will be sharing back this information back to CBDT here in India. So I am just giving one example. India will be having agreement with UK, India will be having agreement with Singapore, Hong Kong, UAE, Germany, France, whatever country that you call, those details are also available, and share those details as well. So the information in terms of financial accounts will be seamless from one country to another country because of the advent of CRS. So as of now, 109 jurisdictions jurisdictions have agreed to implement CRS. Another 47 countries have agreed to implement CRS, but dates in terms of sharing the financial information will happen in the coming years. So India is one of the early adopter countries, meaning that India has already started sharing the information to the partner countries well back in 2016. So first data with respect to sharing of information was for 2016, which got shared in 2017 as far as CRS information is concerned. So if you see here, 49 countries have started sharing information for the past few years. So also 51 countries. I think if I am not wrong, I think 3 reportings have already been done with respect to 49 jurisdictions, and 51 jurisdictions have already shared 2 sets of data to the other partner countries, and the remaining countries will be sharing the information due course. So the interesting point here is, as US has its own FATCA in place, US never want to join CRS. US was of the view that FATCA would be a sufficient requirement. They don't want to join CRS. So as of now, US has not joined CRS, meaning that whenever a country doesn't join the CRS regulation, then automatically it will be considered to be a non-participating jurisdiction. Non-participating jurisdiction will have its own compliance issues. Further compliance needs to be done with respect to non-participating jurisdictions. Before CRS took off in 2014, on lines of FATCA, UK government has started thinking about its own UK FATCA. So UK FATCA also came in picture. It was there for some time till 2015, and later it got substituted to CRS. So UK FATCA was applicable for CDOT countries, meaning that you have crown dependency and British overseas countries, wherein there was a requirement for around 10 countries, Cayman Islands, British Virgin Islands, Guernsey, Jersey, and few other countries come under CDOT countries, and these countries were supposed to share the information with respect to UK persons to UK HMRC. So this was there in place till 2016. Since CRS kicked off, it got subsumed into CRS. So that time UK FATCA was popularly called as son of FATCA. So now anyway it is not applicable. I know I see lots of faces. I just want to throw a joke here. If we have FATCA on one hand and CRS on the other hand, okay, and now anyway we do not have UK FATCA. So what do you think which will have widespread applicability, whether FATCA is applicable or CRS is applicable? What do you think in terms of sharing of information? Which one? CRS, right? Because it has the far-reaching impact. As far as FATCA is concerned, it is only with respect to sharing of US person's information. As far as CRS is concerned, it will be sharing the information with respect to tax residents of other participating countries. So, in a way, CRS role is quite big when compared to FATCA, right? Shall we call CRS as wife of FATCA, husband of FATCA? What do we call? So, is it a complicated question? So, what do you guys think? Okay, anyway, I don't want to get into controversy. I'll make it simple, I'll rephrase, I'll make it as spouse of FATCA. It makes some sense, right? So, I spoke about FATCA and CRS at the global level. We'll quickly jump into FATCA and CRS applicability in India. In July 2015, India signed the IGA, but it was retrospective effect from 1st of June 2014. That's how IJ came in picture. Immediately in August 2015, it became statute. The FATCA and CRS regulations got implemented in the income tax law. If you read 114F onwards, rule 114F, you'll get all the details. And the enabling section was section 285 BA, 285A rather. So with the implementation section, they were able to have FATCA and CRS regulations in place in the income tax law. And India follows, as I mentioned, Model 1 agreement, wherein there will be sharing of information between India as well as partner countries. CBDT has started issuing lots of guidance notes, and it got updated as well on time and time to time basis. The last updated guidance note was issued in November 2016. Then there's annual reporting in terms of FATCA and CRS, and FATCA or CRS needs to be done on a quarterly basis, on an annual basis, and it follows calendar basis. The reporting period is from 1st of January till 31st of December. And in terms of filing, the due date is 31st May of the following year. So if I speak about the reporting period in 2018, the due date to file FATCA and CRS report is by 31st of May 2019. There is a prescribed format, Form 61B, which is applicable in terms of FATCA and CRS reporting, online filing with digital signature. And India is one of the countries where it was insisting for filing of nil report. Even if there are no US reportable accounts or other reportable accounts, still there is a requirement to file nil report. So it is mandatory. So there was one interesting point. India was the first country, rather it is only country to have FATCA and CRS regulations at one place. All other countries have a separate mechanism, separate legislature stating that what is the FATCA regulations, how it is applicable, and what is CRS. But India has gone with a mix of both FATCA and CRS. Of course, it's a good thing, but it creates too much of a confusion in terms of threshold limits, in terms of the applicability of the exemptions which are available only in FATCA, whether it is applicable in CRS. Very difficult. Still, as on date, though there is no clarification, as both regulations are made into one regulation in Indian Income Tax Act, we'll be able to take a benefit not only in the FATCA but also in the CRS. Okay, we spoke about a kind of similarities between FATCA and CRS. Do you see that there are differences between FATCA and CRS? Yes, there are a few subtle differences. What I've done is I've put in a pictorial representation here. If you see FATCA, I've just mentioned as a wheel and spoke model. As far as CRS is concerned, it's a spider web. Why? Because I will start with FATCA. So US government sitting at the center of the spoke here, center of the wheel, and all countries are sitting on the other side of the wheel. You have spokes. So it's like all countries are sharing the information to US, and US is sharing certain information back to the respective countries. So as far as CRS is concerned, it becomes little complicated in terms of reporting, in terms of partner countries, because each and every country can have their own set of compliance requirements, reporting requirements, and they can also have a set of report participating countries and non-participating countries. So India can have agreements with UK, Singapore, Hong Kong, Japan, Germany, France, as a case may be. And India may not be ready to share information with, for example, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Pakistan, Bhutan, as a case may be. So that's the reason I've just made it in such a way that the sharing of information is not so easy as mentioned in FATCA and as mentioned in FATCA regulations. CRS becomes little complicated in terms of sharing of information. The differences, main difference, yes.
So what we are saying is FATCA is only for the US, right? So it's only
Yes.
between India and the US.
Yes, exactly.
And it may, I mean, so is it only for between India and the US or between US and some other countries as well?
It has. So as I mentioned earlier, US has entered into 113 countries. So there are 113 jurisdictions where US has entered into agreement,
So
IGS.
So what we are saying is, if there is something between India and the US, it will be FATCA. If it is
Right.
CRS would be if it is pertaining to any other country other than the US.
Right, exactly. Yes.
So now what happens if see if so you mean to say the sharing of information for all non-US countries will come under CRS?
Exactly. That's right.
But it's a mutual sharing or is it one-way sharing?
No, mutual sharing. So as far as CRS is concerned, India has already shared, I have one slide again on that. I think 2018 data has been shared with 60 other countries already, as of now.
You also get the data from them?
Yes. You will also get data from all the countries. So it is called participating countries. So again, to take an example, India and UK. So India would like to share the information with UK. UK would also like to share the information with US, with India. India, Switzerland, India. So sharing of information will happen on both sides, and it is seamless information of sharing of information.
So what we are saying is, UK nationals are in India.
Right.
Then India will go and share information.
Right. So UK
And
persons.
if Indian nationals are staying in UK will in turn share information.
Right. So one point which I have mentioned here is with respect to UK persons. See, America follows citizenship-based taxation. Wherever a person is residing outside US as well, but he has US citizenship, then there is a requirement. But other countries follow residence-based taxation. So, for example, India follows residence-based taxation. I think most of the countries have not come across a country where it follows citizenship-based taxation. Citizenship-based taxation. I have come across only two countries. Of course, US we are discussing now. There is also one more country called Eritrea. It's a small, tiny African nation which follows citizenship-based taxation. Otherwise, as of now, what I know is other countries follow only resident-based taxation. So, resident-based taxation, the simple rule is, if a person is resident, basically it's a physical stay in a country. If a person is staying more than 160, 180 days, whatever, 6 months or more, then actually that person will become resident in a simple language. Of course, there are lots of complications even to analyze what is the tax residency of a person depending upon the period, fiscal period or the financial period, calendar period, all those things are there. But in simple terminology, if a person lives in a country for more than 180 days, he will become a tax resident of that country. Right? So, I've mentioned that point as well here, reportable accounts. As far as FATCA is concerned, it is more with respect to US persons. He or she could be resident or a citizen, and it is applicable only with respect to sharing of information on for US persons with respect to financial accounts. As far as CRS is concerned, it is with respect to tax residency of other participating country. So, it is not only with respect to one country, it could be multiple countries. Reporting of an account, yes, it is only with respect to US as far as FATCA is concerned. As far as CRS is concerned, if a person has dual residency, then we will be reporting to both the countries with respect to the financial accounts that he holds in the respective country. There are certain exemptions, exclusions being provided in FATCA. But less applicability of those threshold limits exemptions in CRS. And in terms of registration, of course, I'll also briefly take you through the FATCA and CRS process, how it works, what is the impact with respect to an entity in terms of FATCA and CRS applicability. There is a concept called foreign financial institution. For foreign financial institution, there is a mandatory requirement to have GIN, Global Intermediary Identification Number. It's a unique number that's been provided by US IRS. So it is required to have that GIN in place. But in CRS, there is no such requirement. There is no specific or unique number that you need to have in place. So that's the difference between FATCA and CRS. Likewise, withholding is applicable in FATCA, but there is no concept of withholding in CRS. Compliance procedure, you need to have compliance manual in place once FATCA is applicable, and there is a concept called responsible officer, so on and so forth. All these things need to be maintained with the entity, and it is mandatory. CRS, there is no such requirement. It doesn't say that it's not required to have compliance manual. It is a kind of an optional thing in CRS. And the concept of sponsorship facility is available in FATCA, but it is not available in CRS, wherein I have an entity, I register it as a foreign financial institution, I will sponsor the other entity in terms of complying with FATCA. So the other entity is not required to have its own GIN, Global Intermediary Identification Number, and all those things. Even it's not required to report. So the reporting requirements, CRS, FATCA obligations, and all those things will be taken care by the sponsoring entity, the entity that is going to sponsor. So now we speak about how FATCA works, how CRS works. I have started with an entity. Individuals as such, it is not applicable, whether it is FATCA, CRS. There is no compliance obligations as such. It is applicable for entities. Okay. So we'll start with the entity as far as FATCA classification is considered. Though the classification is quite cumbersome and complex, I have put it into two separate buckets to make it simple. One side you will see foreign financial institution, the other side you will see non-financial foreign entity. So in short, FFI and NFFI respectively. Okay, now we start with FFIs. FFIs again two separate categories which I have made it. Reporting FFIs and non-reporting FFIs. Non-reporting FFIs, as far as India is concerned, we can take government entity, we can take Reserve Bank of India, we can take an international organization, few other entities where they will get direct exemption in terms of reporting. It's not required to make any reporting requirements, it's not required to go ahead and do registration. FATCA as such is not applicable. As far as reporting entities, FFIs are concerned, again there are four broad set of categories. Depository institutions, custodial institutions, specified insurance companies, and the last and the residual categories, investment entities. These are the four main categories where compliance with FATCA is mandatory, and it has to follow certain process on a continuous basis. As far as NFFE is concerned, once an entity doesn't satisfy the definition of depository, custodial, specified insurance or investment entity, will get classified as NFFE. That's a thumb rule. So first you need to start analyzing the definitions of FFI. If an entity doesn't fall, then automatically it will get classified as NFFE. Again, for ease of reference, I have put two separate categories: passive NFFE and active NFFE. We'll start off with passive NFFE first. So passive NFFE is an entity where the income earned during the year is 50% or more in terms of passive income, which is nothing but your rent, fixed deposit, interest, annuities, royalties, all passive nature of income. If the entity is earning only this income, or at least 50% or more of this revenue, or it has assets which will generate only passive nature of income, then this entity will get classified as NFFE. Classification is important in terms of compliance. So just to give an example, I have a company. I purchased a property, immovable property, and I will give it on rent. So if I give it on rent, I am going to get fixed income, which is rent. that will be the main source of income, and I am not going to do any activity. As far as your P&L account is concerned, you will see the revenue side, you will see only the rental income, and there will not be any other streams of revenue. And as far as balance sheet is concerned, if you see on the asset side, more or less you will have only immovable property, again which constitutes more than 50% of the total assets which will generate, which is going to generate passive income. So if this is a case of a company, then it will be considered as passive NFFE. So if the entity gets classified as passive NFFE, then there is a requirement to provide controlling person's details. So controlling persons, as far as company is concerned, would be shareholders. It has to provide. Suppose if the company, instead of a company, it is a trust, then in that case it has to provide few other details. It could be with respect to trustee, it could be with respect to beneficiaries, it could be with respect to author of the trust, so on and so forth. This is what would be the requirements in terms of providing the details of controlling persons if company or trust having banking relationship or broking relationship or having mutual funds, so on and so forth. They need to provide all these details to the financial institutions, but there is no direct compliance requirement for these companies. So the reverse scenario is active NFFE, meaning that companies in active business, the income earned in terms of active business is more than 50% of the revenue, or the assets held rather are and the assets held to generate revenue which is passive in nature is less than 50%, then automatically the entity will get classified as active NFFE. Is this clear? So we will take an example about a trading company or a manufacturing company. Okay. So what is the nature of business? It is either trading or manufacturing. What would be the streams of revenue? Basically, it is more with respect to your sales, related activities. You will have sales, you will have purchases, and maybe here and there there is a small percentage of passive income as well. It could be with respect to interest on fixed deposits, or it could be with respect to the rental income that it might be deriving, so on and so forth. So the percentage of revenue from active business is more than 50%, then that entity will get classified as active NFFE. Okay. So coming back to your question, your company is into IT ITS, then it will get classified as NFFE. So if it is NFFE, the compliance requirements are minimal in nature. So your company will be having the banking relationship. So banks will be asking for providing certain set of documents, FATCA documents, CRS documents, W8 forms or W9 forms, or even with respect to self-certification forms. So your entity's requirement, your entity's compliance with respect to FATCA would be only with respect to providing those forms, nothing beyond that. So it is very restricted in nature as far as NFFEs are concerned. As far as FFIs are concerned, there are lots of compliance requirements that I am going to deal in the subsequent slides. So once an entity gets classified as FFI, okay, to make our life simple, I'll take FFI as bank instead of taking other things. So bank will always be considered as an FFI. Okay. Once the bank's classification is considered to be an FFI, the life cycle of FATCA and CRS works in such a way that bank has to obtain a GIN, as I mentioned, the Global Intermediary Identification Number. It has to register with US IRS and obtain GIN. Then the bank has to have a proper onboarding process in terms of FATCA and CRS regulations. Then bank has to conduct due diligence in terms of identifying all the account holders, whether it is reportable as far as FATCA is concerned, whether it is reportable as far as CRS is concerned. So it has to identify US reportable accounts as far as FATCA is concerned, and other reportable accounts in terms of CRS regulations. So once you are able to identify reportable accounts, you need to file an annual return in Form 61B on an annual basis, providing those details. forwarding those details to the Central Board of Direct Taxes. As of now, withholding is applicable only in FATCA regime. CRS, there is no withholding. So this is the entire gamut of FATCA and CRS as far as FFIs are concerned. Now we'll try to understand the definitions with respect to FFIs. As I mentioned, there are four types of FFIs. First one is depository institutions. I've taken the exact definition what is mentioned in the ad. To make it simple, it is nothing but bank, entity which is into banking or similar business. So if the bank provides all these services, of course it will satisfy the definition of depository institution. So connected to depository institution, I've mentioned few points here. Whether the following entities will be depository institutions. One, cooperative banks. Second, payments bank. Third, small finance banks. Fourth, NBFCs. So NBFCs, again you have deposit taking NBFCs, non-deposit taking NBFCs as well. So can we consider these types of entities as FFIs? So I will go back to this definition. So it speaks about entity that accepts deposits in ordinary course of banking or similar business. Entity is considered to be banking or similar business if in the ordinary course of its business with customers it regularly engages in activities such as accept deposits, makes personal mortgage, industrial other loans, provides other extensions of credits, purchases, discounts, negotiates, so on and so forth. So it provides that these activities are conducted by an entity, it will get classified as FFI. Now I will go back to this slide. Okay, we will take up cooperative banks. Is it a depository institution? Right? So it's a depository institution. Okay. Now moving on, payments bank. Payments bank can be considered as a depository institution? If you ask me, yes. Even small finance banks, some small finance banks also accept deposits and all those things. More or less, it does most of the activities subject to RBI guidelines. Whatever activities prescribed for payments bank or small finance bank, still it will consider to be a depository institution. Okay, and NBFCs will start off with deposit taking institution. Of course, deposit taking NBFCs will get classified under the gamut of depository institution definition. Okay. Now we spoke about banks, cooperative banks, and similar institutions. So the second definition is with respect to custodial institution. So custodial institutions are those where they take the money from the customers and they'll, which is nothing but financial assets, and they'll invest that into different sectors. So a simple example is with respect to mutual funds. So we subscribe for the mutual fund scheme, and that money will be utilized by mutual funds in terms of giving returns to us. So generally speaking, mutual funds will get covered under custodial institution definition. As far as specified insurance company is concerned, it is applicable to life insurance companies, and you'll have different types of policies. You'll have pension plan, you'll have unit linked plan, you'll have term plan and all those things. So for these companies, FATCA is applicable because it will be considered as specified insurance company, which is again considered to be a foreign financial institution. So the question here is non-life insurance, whether it satisfies the definition of specified insurance company. No, right? Because it speaks about with respect to cash value insurance contract or annuity contract. General non-life insurance is basically with respect to general insurance. It could be with respect to vehicle insurance, it could be with respect to your property insurance, so on and so forth. So non-life insurance companies will never be considered as foreign financial institutions. Okay, the residual category is quite important. Residual category is the investment entity. So we had those three definitions. Then the fourth category is investment entity. Investment entities definition says like this: entity's primary business consists of one or more of the following activities on behalf of a customer. Very important: trading in money market instruments, foreign exchange, interest rate, index instruments, so on and so forth. Individual or collective portfolio management, investing, administering, or managing financial assets or money on behalf of persons, basically customers. Okay, and the gross income from such business activities has to be equal or more than 50% of gross income over a 3-year period. So, what do you think that what type of entities will get captured or covered under this definition? Stockbrokers can be considered under this definition, right? Alternate investment funds, that will also come under this. So trust, the intention of most of the trusts, of course not here in India, but if I take other countries, the intention of the trust is to create, hold assets and earn revenue. Otherwise there will not be any activities, and these things happen in most of the tax haven countries. So these are the entities that will get captured under investment entity definition. Even NBFCs, non-deposit taking institutions, NBFCs will also fall under this definition of investment entity. So there is also reference to one of the definitions provided by FATCA, Financial Action Task Force. It speaks about in case the definition provided restricts for a specific entity not to be considered as a foreign financial institution, then we should also read the definition of FATCA to understand whether it will fall under this definition or not. So intention is foreign financial institution should be read as foreign financial institution. I mean, meaning that financial institution to be considered always considered as financial institution. That's the intent of referring again to FATCA definition as well here. Okay, we spoke about the first set of the FATCA classification. The second major applicabilities with respect to obtaining the registration. Again, I will refer to bank. Bank satisfies the definition of depository, hence a foreign financial institution. Now, what is the next step? So, once an entity is considered to be FFI, then there is a requirement for that FFI, for that bank to go and apply for obtaining a number called, unique number called Global Intermediary Identification Number. In short, it is called GIN. There is a prescribed form called 8957 which needs to be done, and it should be applied online with US IRS. So we need to log into US IRS and we need to file online application form, and once we provide the necessary details, US IRS reviews the details what we have provided and allots the GIN within 2 or 3 business working days. So GIN has 19 characters. The first 6 characters represent FATCA ID. I have given the example here of State Bank of India. State Bank of India's GIN reads as 68D1E5. So these 6 characters represent FATCA ID. The next 5 characters represents the type of FFI. Okay, 9999, 5 nines. Is usually shows with respect to single FFI, meaning that it doesn't have, it's not gone to the expanded affiliate group, meaning that SBI having expanded affiliate group definition. Again, expanded affiliate group definition never been explained in Indian Income Tax Act nor in US FATCA. We need to go back to US regulations. Chapter 4 of Higher Act, where it provides that if the entity's intention is to do only FFI activity, then there is a way to consolidate everything into lead FFI and member FFI, and reporting can be done seamlessly with lead FFI and member FFI as a case may be. So that's the advantage of having this expanded affiliate group, but not much details are available, at least in the Indian tax law. Most of the companies don't really go for EAG benefit. They want to register themselves as a single FI in each of the respective countries. The next two characters represent country code. There is this type of FFI character 17 to 19 speaks about character 14 and 15 speaks about type of FFI. It could be lead FFI as I mentioned, single FFI or member FFI. Usually 1, 2, 3, 4. These would be the basic type of FFI which we generally come across. The last three characters represent the country code. For India, as per ISO 3166, the India code is 356. So if you go and check, if you go and log into US IRS, if you scroll down, if you select for India, you'll always see the country code as 356. It's always the standard code. Okay, the next question is with respect to obtaining GIN. Whether, again, I'm going back to SBI. It's a bank, it's a depository institution. SBI has its headquarters in Mumbai and has branches across India, right? Thousands of branches in India. Whether SBI has to obtain one GIN or each GIN for each of the branches. What's your thought? Yes, absolutely. Only one is sufficient to have GIN in India. If I speak about only India and its branches in India, one is a sufficient requirement. But if I speak about SBI having a branch in Singapore, yes, it has a branch in Singapore. Then for Singapore branch, it has to obtain a separate GIN. If it has a branch in UK, it has to obtain one more GIN. So wherever there is a branch outside India, then there is a requirement to obtain separate GIN for that specific branch or branches.
It is country based.
Sorry, country based, yes, country based.
Suppose SBI is having in same country two branches, then two separate institutions.
One is sufficient again. One is sufficient. So as what applies here in India, headquarter, head office and branches one GIN. There also one GIN for both the branches. Okay, this is with respect to the status of FFIs registered with IRS from all the countries. So Cayman stands first in terms of GIN, that the FFI registration. It has around 67,280 GINs, which has which has obtained as on date, followed by UK, Brazil, Japan. And you don't really see India being part of this because I have put it under the others category. So for that, as far as India is concerned, I have okay. Before I move on to India, as on today, there are 3,47,000 plus entities who have applied for GIN and obtained GIN. Okay, as far as Indian scenario is concerned, as on date, Indian FFIs obtained around 2,800 GINs only as on date. So I have put all the breakups here into different sectors. So to start off, banks, cooperative banks, payments bank, all put together have only 231 GINs. So if I speak about cooperative banks and other things, we have 2,000 plus banks, but the status of obtaining GIN is only with respect to 231. and brokerage companies. Sorry. Brokerage companies, we have stockbrokers, we have subbrokers. Stockbrokers, we have around 14,000, 15,000 in numbers, and subbrokers runs in again 20,000, 25,000 numbers. I don't know the exact numbers, but the number of FFIs who have registered and obtained GIN as an FFI is only 787. Likewise, funds, it runs in 2,000 or 3,000 numbers, but the registration is only with respect to 500 plus. Likewise, I have broken these into different categories. These are actual scenario in terms of getting the registration by the Indian FFIs. The numbers are quite small. Still, there are lots of entities who have not applied for GIN and started complying with FATCA and CRS. So the third category is with respect to onboarding. I mean, the third phase is with respect to onboarding and due diligence. If I come back to this slide. Yeah. So classification we spoke, registration done, onboarding and due diligence is the third phase of FATCA and CRS regulation. Okay, this is an important phase for any of the financial institutions, because this is the phase wherein each and every financial institution has to collect lots of information in terms of each and every customer. Again, I will take the example of bank. Bank has to collect lots of data in terms of FATCA and CRS to comply with FATCA and CRS regulations. So you might have already seen signing FATCA and CRS declaration forms, W8 forms. It depends on one bank to another bank. Few banks follow the US IRS issued forms which are called W9 and W8 forms. Again, W8 forms have 5 types of forms: W8 Ben, W8 Benny, W8 BCI, W8 EXP, W8 IMY. So depending upon the requirement, these forms needs to be collected from each and every account holder, and few banks go for the purpose of CRS a self-certification mode, meaning that you need to provide certain set of information. So these details, if you have seen, if you have signed, becomes quite complicated. Sometimes it will be easy, sometimes it will be very difficult. So it is applicable not only for individuals in terms of filling the details, because account holders could be individuals, account holders could be entities. So these details need to be collected by the bank, and it needs to be processed, it needs to be verified, and after verification it needs to be the bank has to identify reportable accounts and non-reportable accounts. Reportable accounts for FATCA purpose is US reportable accounts, and for CRS it is other reportable accounts. Again, to make it simple, if I am speaking about UK, so the bank has to identify UK persons details while doing the due diligence process. And what is it needs to be reported by a bank? So it is nothing but the financial accounts. So with respect to each category, financial accounts being categorized into different set of financial accounts. As far as banks are concerned, it is depository accounts. Again, depository accounts is your savings bank, current account, the time deposits, be it in terms of fixed deposit or recurring deposits. It could be interest bearing, it could be non-interest bearing. All these will be considered to be financial accounts which are reportable. As far as custodial institutions are concerned, it is custodial accounts. All the customers' account will get considered to be financial account, and it will get reported if there are reportable accounts. And specified insurance companies, the policy holders will be considered to be the financial accounts for the purpose of reporting. Investment entity, debt or equity, it would be applicable. For partnership, again it is with respect to partners' capital account, current account. Company, it is with respect to shareholders. Trust, settlers, beneficiaries, trustees and any other natural person exercising ultimate control over the trust. So all these activities of the bank will get culminated into reporting. The bank need to collate all the information and need to provide these details in a prescribed form, which is 61B as far as India is concerned. There is also requirement for the FFI to obtain one more unique number called ITD REIN, quite complex. Income Tax Department Reporting Entity Identification Number. So before you go ahead and make the reporting of reportable accounts, you need to have in place ITD REIN number, then only you will be able to go ahead and report. Earlier till 2018, March 2018, we used to file 61B with income tax e-filing, but later on it's been hybrid into a separate reporting portal called reporting portal for specific set of reportable accounts, be it in terms of Form 61, Form 61A, Form 61B. All these will be reported through a separate reporting portal, which is nothing but report.insight.gov.in. These are portal wherein you need to do the reporting as far as FATCA and CRS reportable accounts are concerned. So 61B has two separate set of parts. Part A is basically with respect to the details of financial institutions, whether you are reporting under FATCA, whether you are reporting under CRS, who are the responsible officer, what is the reporting period, so on and so forth. It has the basic details of the bank, of the FFI, and part B is with respect to reportable accounts. So as far as FATCA is concerned, US reportable accounts. As far as CRS is concerned, tax residency of other participating jurisdiction. Everything will be done in one consolidated report, and this has to be filed on or before 31st May of the following year. So this is the entire gamut of FATCA and CRS at a very high level. Any questions before we move on with respect to 3CD amendments? Okay. So last year, as you are aware, Form 3CD got into a revision. There are lots of amendments being done, and there was lots of hue and cry because time limit was not provided and all those things. Few classes got postponed because of not having the data. But with respect to one class, there was no much discussion. That was class 42 in class 42 in Form 3CD. So if you have gone through 3CD in detail and if you are doing an audit for a foreign financial institution, there was an added responsibility, not from this year but even from the last year. So what it says, first question is with respect to whether the SC is required to furnish statement in Form 61, 61A, 61B, yes or no. Okay, it starts with yes or no. If yes, you need to provide further details. Right from ITD, REIN number, type of form. I'm just sticking my views only with respect to 61B. So you'll be mentioning 61B. Due date for furnishing, of course, it is 31st of May. Then date of furnishing of report in Form 61B, whether you have provided or not. The draconian clause is with respect to the last column. If you read whether the form contains information about all details, transactions which are required to be reported. If not, please furnish list of the details, transactions which are not reported. Okay. So it is important for the tax auditor whether compliance has been done as far as FATCA and CRS is concerned. So in our institute also issued implementation guide last year itself, and it has around 11-12 pages only with respect to FATCA and CRS. Of course, the data is pulled out more or less from the guidance note issued by the CBDT, but it acts as a ready reference. it provides the details, how an entity needs to be classified, what needs to be done, so on and so forth. Now the question comes is, okay, the basic question is whether classification is being done properly, rightly or wrongly. How do we know? Is that the responsibility of the tax auditor? Because it speaks about whether the SSC is required to furnish statement in Form 61, Form 61A or Form 61B. So what are your thoughts? Classification not done properly? Or do we need to check the classification of the entity? Let's assume most of you might be doing audit for cooperative banks, even for other FFIs. So what would be your thoughts? Whether we need to do first, whether we need to comply with FATCA and CRS and do the reporting, or whether based on the information we need to classify, we need to ask the client to classify. What would be our thoughts in terms of reporting requirements as far as 3CD is concerned? How do you proceed? So I know it is very complex. There is no much information available in terms of complying with FATCA and CRS. It's a difficult exercise for the auditor to understand, first of all, whether FATCA and CRS would be applicable or not. And it's a different ball game altogether to understand, okay, what is the implication, is it required to be complied with or not. So it becomes so complex by just putting, inserting one clause will have a bigger impact in terms of tax auditor's responsibility. We need to be very, very careful in terms of reporting any of the details in class 42. Please be careful. And there are other challenges as well. The other challenge, the other issue that I have mentioned is calendar year vis-a-vis the financial year. So, as far as FATCA is concerned, as I mentioned earlier, the reporting period is always calendar year, starting from 1st of January, ending on 31st of December. So, this is a reporting period for the purpose of filing 61B. But 3CD is more with respect to financial year, starting with 1st of April, ending on 31st of March. So, what is that we need to report? Of course, bank, taking the example of bank has provided the details. It has already filed the form. I'll take the example for 2018. For the purpose of 61B, the bank has already filed for the reporting period being 1st of January 2018 till 31st of December 2018 and filed the report on or before the due date, which is 31st of May 2019. So as far as tax audit is concerned, we speak about 1st of April till 31st of March. So we do not have any details with respect to 3 months period being 1st of January 2019 till 31st of January 31st of March 2019, because the reporting requirement is next year, not this year. So I need to report these 3 months plus remaining 9 months of 2019 and 2020. So how do we report? And if you read the implementation guide provided by ICA, it doesn't speak anything about that. It's a practical challenge altogether. If the bank has complied with proper set of data for the first 9 months, okay. If they have not complied for the next 3 months, what would be the impact in terms of reporting requirement under 3CD? It's a challenge. So these are all practical challenges that you will come across in terms of doing the audit for the FFIs. So before I move on to the recent developments, any questions which I would like to take? Shall I move on? Okay. So the recent developments as far as CRS is concerned is going on in a big way. There is a forum called Global Forum, which is nothing but a multilateral framework with respect to transparency and exchange of information for tax purposes. So India is also one of the members of GF, Global Forum, and Global Forum has two streams of activities, major two streams of activities. One is with respect to exchange of information and request, In short, it is called EOIR. Second is with respect to the CRS, AEOI, which we are speaking about, which we are discussing now. So this is two streams of activities that's being monitored by Global Forum directly. There was annual, always this GF Global Forum meeting happens on an annual basis. Usually it will be in the month of November. So the last meeting happened in Uruguay in the month of November on 20th to 22nd November 2018. Lots of discussions happened, and India also participated in the GF meeting. India was also present. Then the CRS initiatives, CRS effectiveness were discussed at length in the Global Forum meeting, and they came out with a suggestion, all the GF members stating that we need to do a peer review to understand what is the effectiveness of CRS implementation, whether it is running, whether it's been implemented properly by each and every country, and what needs to be done if the country is not following the CRS implementation. So they came out with a staged approach, meaning that the CRS came into statute. The CRS standard was developed in 2014, and there were lots of activities and time was given to each and every country, each and every jurisdiction to implement CRS from 2015 to 2019. Then they took a call that okay, we have given sufficient time for each and every company, every jurisdiction to implement CRS. Such being the case, why we will not go ahead and do a peer review in terms of effectiveness of implementing of CRS. So they decided unilaterally that the peer review should start in the year 2020. So in next couple of months, it will kickstart with respect to the implementation of CRS. And very important event that is happening is in this month, the last week of November, there is this GF 2019 meeting which is scheduled in France, and it is going to start on 26th and it will end on 27th of November 2019. So there are going to be lots of information, lots of details that we are expecting to come out, because it is being the 10th anniversary of Global Forum. They are going to take up lots of decisions in terms of implementation of CRS across all the locations, all the jurisdictions. Now, of course, DIRT, KYC, Ben 1, Ben 2, it's not directly related to CRS or EOI. Why I have brought in this specific slide is with respect to exchange of information on request. We spoke about EOIR. EOIR is there in place for a number of years. If you remember, India in 2013 came out with a notification on Cyprus stating that Cyprus will get considered to be NJA, Notified Jurisdictional Area, and because Cyprus was not sharing the information of certain taxpayers to India on request. So EOIR works on request basis, AEOI or CRS works on automatic basis. So India made several requests to Cyprus with respect to information on several taxpayers. Cyprus never bothered to provide those details. I am speaking of 2013. So based on NJA, Notified Jurisdictional Area concept, they implemented NJA on Cyprus, meaning that if there are any transactions between India and Cyprus, 30% withholding would be applicable, and even though it is with unrelated parties, transfer pricing would be applicable, dividend implication would be applicable. Lots of things came up in terms of implementing NJA, and later on Cyprus went into war footing basis to have a discussion with Indian tax authorities, and they were able to resolve that, but it took some time. They were able to take out that NJA black tag from Cyprus after some time. So that is the draconian provisions in terms of sharing of information on request basis. So as part of EOIR, there was a peer review, what we are speaking about for CRS as well. 2 peer reviews happened for India, one in 2013, the other one in 2017. The statistics are there in this slide. So if you read the outcome of the review, in 2013 it was all the points, all the issues were complaint status, there were no issues. But when the second peer review happened in 2017, there were lots of issues that have come up, at least for 2 points. One is with respect to availability of ownership and identity information. Second is with respect to quality and timeliness of requests and responses. So the peer reviewers have brought down the complaint status from the status of complaint to largely complaint status. So one grade has come down with respect to these 2 pointers for India. So because of this, the reviewers, peer reviewers, there were 2 peer reviewers, one from Dutch Ministry, the other one from US IRS. They suggested certain things to implement immediately in India to ensure that India will be able to come out of largely compliant status to compliant status. So they suggested few things to amend Companies Act. So one was with respect to collecting the information through DAI KYC. The other one was with respect to collecting the substantial beneficial ownership details through Ben 1 and Ben 2. Of course, if you read Ben 1, Ben 2, again it is quite complicated. It's so difficult at times to get all the information, and as you are aware, Ben 1, Ben 2 is getting postponed like anything. I think 2 or 3 times it got postponed, and now the due date to provide Ben 1, Ben 2 details is 31st December 2019 because of the complexity involved. So if there are multi-layered companies with respect to getting the details of beneficial owners, who are the natural persons behind a company, it is very, very difficult. We have a live case which is going on with respect to one company. There's a company, the shareholders are both foreign holding companies. One is from Beware, the other one is Samoa. That's the name of the country. So Samoa shares being held again by Chinese entity. Then again it is going back to Taiwan. Taiwan, there are 3 public limited companies, and again beyond Taiwan it goes back to Japan. From Japan again it is going back to Cayman Islands. Still we are grappling with an understanding about who is behind, who is a natural person behind this, the entire group. We are unable to get the details. The managing director here in the Indian subsidiary is unable to get the details. The management at the group level, they are not able to share the information, and we are unable to complete the analysis who are the natural persons behind a particular group. It is very, very important, and this is based on the recommendation provided by the peer reviewers as a part of EOIR recommendation. Okay, so on similar lines of EOIR, there is going to be a peer review as far as CRS is concerned, EOI is concerned. So the terms of reference has been broken into 3 core requirements, 1, 2 and 3. So the first requirement is with respect to jurisdictions having the reporting financial institutions to ensure that whether the proper due diligence has been done, proper reporting has been done or not. So the core requirement 1 is more with respect to all the financial institutions that would be applicable to ensure that whether they were able to do the implementation of CRS in a proper way or not. Second, the core requirement was with respect to the jurisdictions for a country. So whether the country is able to exchange the information with the other interested participating countries or not, and whether it is happening on a timely basis or not. So this is the core requirement 2. The third requirement is more with respect to information of exchange. So I have received, so India as such has received information from the UK with respect to Indian persons, whether there is a mechanism in place in terms of safeguarding the information, whether confidentiality has been maintained or not. So on all these three requirements, a peer will be done by peer reviewers in 2020. So it is going to have a bigger ramification for sure, and as I mentioned earlier, the number of FFIs registered in India is quite less. If I speak about on a ballpark number, let's assume that we have FFIs to the extent of 50,000 in numbers, and the registrations as such is only 2,800. Of course, it is less than 10% of the requisite numbers. So you will start seeing all these tractions for sure in 2020 once peer reviewer issues a report in terms of implementation of CRS in the coming months. Okay, we have CRS in place. Once we have CRS in place, what are the benefits that each and every country has gained so far? So as of now, as more than 100 jurisdictions have implemented CRS, there are 4,500 bilateral exchange information relationship, meaning that India has more than 100 exchange information partners. So also other countries also have certain set of exchange information of accounts, and as of June 2019, of course, the exchange of information happens between countries usually in the month of September. As of now, there is no data available. For 2017 data which was shared in 2018, it seems that 47 million offshore accounts got exchanged between the countries, and the value itself is around 4.9 trillion euros. Now, you might be remembering about the income declaration scheme that was launched by India in 2016, right? This is nothing but the initiative shown by OECD. OECD has made a specific request with respect to each and every country that there should be a voluntary scheme that should be provided as a one-time opportunity to ensure that they will be able to regularize. People will be able to, taxpayers will be able to regularize the requirements of disclosing the assets and paying proper taxes. So as such, India also launched this income declaration scheme in 2016, and if you have seen, 65,000 taxpayers have come forward, declared assets worth $11 billion, and India was able to collect $6 billion worth of extra taxes as part of income declaration scheme. So same thing happened even with respect to other countries, and the period of disclosure and all those things, for the past 10 years if we take the voluntary disclosure scheme, similar schemes in other countries, all put together, the respective OECD and G20 countries were able to collect 95 billion euros worth of additional revenues in the form of tax imposition penalties. So it's a major achievement as far as initiation of CRS is concerned as on date, and this also resulted into decline of bank deposits in international financial centers. International financial centers are nothing but tax haven countries. So there were no requirements earlier to provide the details of ownership earlier in any of the countries. Now, after the advent of CRS, there was a requirement to provide details of ownership. Then automatically, once CRS came in picture, taxpayers or people have started, withdrawing the bank deposits in the IFCs, basically tax haven countries. So this is the information sharing between India and others. I've just taken one of the slides. If you see India, as of now, with respect to data pertaining to 2017, India shared the data with 60 other countries. So likewise, even other countries have also shared information with other partner countries. If you see Guernsey, 61 countries it has already shared. Likewise, Hong Kong shared with 36 countries. So these numbers will go in big in the coming years. As I mentioned, as of now it is 4,500 bilateral exchange of relationships that are in place now. Okay, the recent news is with respect to getting the first tranche of Indian accounts in Swiss banks. So this was the latest news. You might have heard about getting the first tranche of information of the Swiss, the Indian accounts holding in the Swiss banks, and this is nothing but part of the CRS initiative only. So India and Switzerland had entered into an agreement in 2016, and this got implemented in 2018, and they received the first data last month. So this is under a review by the CBDT, and we start seeing lots of tractions in terms of issuing the notices. The one point which I've come across is the data that has been shared by Switzerland is with respect to accounts opened or closed on or after 2018. So you might have seen that there were lots of withdrawals happened before 2018. I don't know what type of data being received now by the Indian government, what set of data being shared by Switzerland. In the coming times we'll be able to get a proper understanding as whether the data that has been received from Switzerland is worth having and going ahead and collecting taxes or not. Just need to wait and watch. Okay, these are all the timelines which we have already discussed. The other topic connected to this is with respect to non-compliance of FATCA and CRS. We already discussed a couple of things here. 30% withholding would be applicable with respect to US-sourced income. There could be loss of reputation, because if you are not registered as an FFI, the other FFIs will not be willing to do a transaction with you, which will result into market risk as well. So apart from generic issues, Income Tax Act also has penal provisions that could be applicable for non-filing of Form 61B. So there is a penal provision under Section 271 FA of the Income Tax Act providing for 500 rupees per day of default. So 2018 data, which are filed it by 31st of May 2019, and if you have not filed it on or before 31st of May, 500 rupees per day needs to be paid on a daily basis till you comply with the filing of Form 61B. And once the Income Tax Office issues a notice, then the penal provisions would get doubled to 1,000 rupees per day of default. So apart from this, if the FFI furnishes inaccurate information in 61DA, there is a penalty of 50,000 rupees. I don't know whether it is per account or all accounts put together. So there will be several thousands of accounts as a bank has to report. So I have not provided details with respect to one account. Whether per account I need to calculate 50,000 or income tax authorities will be calculating 50,000, no idea. Okay, financial institutions in a way are being regulated by one of the regulators. If it is bank, it is being regulated by RBI. If it is NBFCs, again it comes under RBI, right? Stockbrokers under the SEBI, mutual funds again under SEBI, so on and so forth. So there are regulators who have to ensure compliance of FATCA and CRS. One such circular was issued by RBI way back in 2015, stating that the CEO or the chairperson of the respective bank has to comply with FATCA and CRS by forming a high-level monitoring committee and all those things. I'm not too sure how exactly, to what extent each and every bank was able to comply with this. And it speaks about contravention will result into invoking section 35A or section 45, which is mentioned here. It could go for winding up. Of course, it may not take that kind of a drastic step, but there could be a possibility of invoking all these provisions in the coming months. As far as criminal prosecution is concerned, in 2018 there was one case which has come up. It's a sting operation done by US IRS. So one of the customers went into a guise as US customer. He said, "I'm not going to provide any details, documents. You cannot consider me as US person, and to that extent I'll be able to give you a business." So this person, Adrian, agreed to that. He didn't disclose any details with respect to US person, and later on it turned out to be a sting. So he got arrested, and to extradite him from I think Hungary to US, there were lots of cooperation being extended by few countries. So City of London Police gave proper cooperation. UK's Financial Conduct Authority, Hungarian National Bureau of Investigation joined hands, and they've extradited this person from Hungary to US. Now he is behind the bars, and he may likely to face 5 years in imprisonment. So, any further questions? Okay, yeah, if you require further details, I have written one article which got published in April 2018 in our Chartered Accountant publication, Chartered Accountant Journal. You can read it, and I have provided all the details with respect to FATCA and CRS regulations. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your patient listening.
Thank you, sir. It was very informative for FATCA and the CRS. I think hope all of you enjoyed this session. We are coming to the close of the session, and as a token of gratitude, let's present a memento from our institute. Please give a big round of applause for today's speaker. We are coming to the end of today's session. We'll meet in the next